In 2022, I was about to undergo the most epic landscape photography journey possible by going to Antarctica. I flew out from Denmark and met up with Nigel Danson, James Popsies and Alan Wallace in Heathrow, wherefrom we flew to Santiago in Chile. As this was still during COVID, we just needed a little test to get into the country. Shit. So yeah, mine was positivo, which meant that while the others traveled on to Antarctica, this was my view for a week, and without being able to link up with the group, I just headed back home. So let's see, there's a little bit more luck this time. So this here is going to be about a 48-hour travel. So Copenhagen to Heathrow in London, from there on to Santiago in Chile, stay one night, then on to Punta Arenas, southern Chile, and from there we fly into King George's Island in Antarctica, and from there we sail out. The first plane ride went smoothly, and in Heathrow I met up with some of the other guides, Jerome, James, Nigel, Rick and Rachel, before undertaking the long, but luckily this time comfortable, yet expensive, flight to Santiago in Chile, where I was in for another bad surprise.
Mass is in a bad place. You doing alright? You doing alright? Oh dear.
So the absolutely worst thing that could happen has of course happened. I don't know what is with me in Chile and Santiago, but sorry for the graphical details, but I've been vomiting since midnight. And it's 5 in the morning now. We are going to get on the plane to Punta Arenas. And yeah, so like once an hour I'm out. This is crazy. Food poisoning probably, I don't know, heat stroke from yesterday. I'm exhausted. This is hard. But we are determined to get there. So after the worst plane ride in my life, we landed in Punta Arenas, and luckily already there I started feeling better. In the evening we met up with all the participants for the trip and had a little introduction on what to expect over the next 1.5 weeks. So it is the next morning here in Punta Arenas and I feel so much better. So it was probably some food poisoning that I had there yesterday. So that is very good news. The sad news is that we will probably not be able to fly into Antarctica today due to zero visibility down where the planes are supposed to land, and they need visibility. So we're going to spend the day with some presentations and maybe some photo walks in the afternoon, but we are a little bit always on the standby if it clears down on King George Island. So we are out with the camera, getting a little bit of bird photography done here just down by the pier, and yeah, simply just honing our skills, trying to get focus, sharp photos of the birds flying, just so that people can get a little bit of an idea about what they're going into when we head to Antarctica. But right here it's easy because we get a lot of light. So another day after, I am completely back on top, thank God. We have just got a go, so we are heading out to Antarctica today. Now I just need to close my suitcase again. Yeah. Are you excited?
No.
No.
Of course I am.
So 2 years, finally made it. Wow, the trip down here felt like forever. But yeah, it's good to be back on our boat, the Sylvia Earl. Fantastic ship. I'm looking so much forward to the next 10 days, and I think so should you. Alright guys, before we continue, I just want to let you know that my spring sale where you can get entire $100 off my big post-processing course is now running. It is in this course where I share all my editing techniques through Camera Raw and Photoshop. Camera Raw, which is basically the same as Lightroom, is the RAW converter to Photoshop. In this more than 30 videos course, I teach you about the programs, how to use them, blending, luminosity masking, dodging and burning, cleaning your photos properly, how to add and control atmosphere and glow, and much more. There is a link with the coupon code to get the $100 off down in the description of the video. If you see this video after the expiring of the spring sale, there will be another discount. After some safety exercises on Sylvia Earl, we set out from King George Island towards the Antarctic Peninsula, and after a wavy night, we had our first incredible excursion. So we have made it to Antarctic proper. We are now on the continent. This is just super exciting. We've just been out in the Zodiacs, sailing around, and we have seen whales coming up. These were humpback whales. They were feeding. Like, it was really hard to photograph because, as you can see right now, it's snowing, so we have to deal with focusing and the snow. But wow, what an experience. I've never been that close to whales before, so that was amazing. So, as I mentioned, we have made it onto shore, and right now we're going to hike up here, and then there should be a viewpoint towards this massive glacier here in the background. I'll see what I can make of that. So I made it to the top here, and we are a lot of people just shooting a little bit, just picking out details. I had high hopes that I could use the glacier here in the background and then with a person in front, but we do have to follow like the fence and the line here. There is a skua, that's a bird just laying beyond the line that we can kind of photograph if we want to. We can also shoot a little bit further down. However, coming in here in the Zodiacs, I actually managed to photograph the glacier with the people standing right here in the foreground. And I think that actually may look really good. You can see that right here. So right now, up here, I have put on my 50 to 400 millimeter lens. I'm shooting at 80 millimeter towards like a cluster of icebergs we have here in front. Now it is quite foggy, so we can't see the horizon line, which I think is really cool. So I put on the polarizing filter 2, and that cuts out some of the glare here in front. Super minimal photo, and settings wise, ISO 50, f16, and that gives me as slow a shutter speed as possible. And with the polarizing filter, that's like 1/5 of a second. That one comes here. My most used lens on the entire Antarctic trip turned out to be the Tamron 50-400mm. It's just such a versatile lens. However, when photographing with the longer focal lengths, you can easily lose the sense of depth. That's why I, in the curation process of the many photos I took of whales, made sure to select the photos with some kind of background. Besides creating some depth, it also gives context to the photo, and the negative space helps to further draw attention to the whale. Likewise, in the photo of the big glacier, I made sure to include some of the foreground ice in the water just to have a bit of foreground, else the midground with the people, who also helps give a sense of scale, just blends in with the background. In the photo of the icebergs, the fog, smaller pieces of ice and several icebergs that get smaller throughout the scene helps convey the depth. Depth, scale and negative space are all subjects I cover in my ebook on composition landscape photography. So if you struggle with composition, be sure to get it. It's easy to read and has loads of examples. If you enjoy the first one, be sure to also get the second. There are links to both of them in the description of the video. The next morning we set out to visit our first penguin colony and a red hut.
Hey guys!
So we made our first landing at a penguin colony, and there's just penguins everywhere. I gotta admit, to begin with, I was a little bit overwhelmed because you can just zoom in and photograph them, and I've also filmed them quite a lot. But actually making a proper photo with some penguins where something is happening or some artsy minimalist stuff is a little bit challenging. Now we are at a place right now where I know Nigel were a couple of years ago, and it makes complete sense to try to include this arch leading line right here. So many of us are simply just standing here next to it, waiting for some penguins to walk by, and it looks really nice with just this arch and 1 or 2 penguins walking in that direction right there. I have also been looking in this direction right here and trying to photograph the penguins up here on this cliff and having the mountains here in the background. The weather is quite bland today, sadly, but hopefully it will clear in a moment. But I think these 2 photos are worth showing, with the penguin right here and the penguins right there. So we made it down to this hut you can see here in the background, and of course we placed Silver Earl just even further in the background. We can't get it from another angle, so in that way it's easier to just isolate the hut. It's super cool because it's just full of penguins around the hut. It's like a very historical site, and just before when I arrived there was like a little pack of birds flying above the hut that looked really nice. So it's very minimalist, dramatic scene right here today, with these low, relatively grey clouds here behind me. Even though it is cloudy, it's fairly easy to just handhold the camera, just increase the ISO a little bit, and it gives a shutter speed of, at the very least, 1/200th of a second if you have like an aperture of f8 or something like that. With this photo I'll leave you guys until next week, where we continue through Antarctica and take even more amazing photos. Be sure to check out my ebooks in the description of the video and use the coupon code to save some money on my big editing course, where you can learn all my editing techniques. As always, I'd highly appreciate a like, and a comment. See you next time.